Welcome to the Forge X-Files with your host, Davis Potter.
What's going on, everybody? We've got another episode of the Forge X-Files. Today, I'll be rocking the solo pod, and I really want to get into it because we have a lot to cover. There are two main pieces that I really want to chat through. The first is 7 predictions for 2025 when it comes to account-based go-to-market. And then the second, I want to chat about something I've been hearing a lot in the market, seeing it a lot in the market, which is go-to-market being something that we were not previously doing. And in 2025, we're going to start doing GTM. In 2025, we're going to start building a GTM strategy. So first off, let's get into 7 predictions for 2025. The first one, product marketing and ABM's alignment gap is going to close. The light will start to shed on the fact that ABM teams need to be aligning with product marketing around content, around messaging, around segmentation specifically, and when building their target account lists. And double clicking in on the segmentation aspect, we've conducted so many benchmark audits where one of two things are happening. It's either one, the ABM team hasn't partnered closely with product marketing. They haven't had the conversations with the product marketing team around what is our overall go-to-market strategy that you all have created. And this product marketing team, they have already shared this with the sales teams. They're having discussions with the board, the C-suite. How are we going to be positioning our product? How are we going to be positioning our company against our competitors? What's the competitive analysis? What are the different segments, whether it's industries, whether it's product lines, whether it's micro segments as well? What are we going to be focusing on for the year? Where are our gaps? Where are our opportunities? Where are our strengths? And when thinking about your account-based go-to-market strategy, your ABM strategy, when you're building your target account list, you're essentially defining the segments that you're going to be pursuing. That then directly leads into where your target accounts are going to be coming from. And this misalignment between product marketing and ABM, there is so much friction that's occurring, especially when product marketing team is enabling and having these discussions with your sales teams as well. And then ABM, if you're off in a silo and you're conducting this analysis, you're creating different insights, you're doing work that's probably already been done and building these unique strategies, sales is going to be like, okay, this is amazing. You've done all this work. We've also seen this work from product marketing. Where's the alignment gap? And then the same thing is going to be happening at the C-suite level as well. You're going to be saying, hey, how does this line up with our overarching go-to-market strategy or our overarching account-based go-to-market strategy? So this alignment between product marketing and ABM, it not only needs to close, but it hasn't been spoken about nearly enough. And at ForgeX, we're going to start to shed the spot. We're going to start to shine the spotlight on this gap. And the last piece that I want to cover here too is the content side. Product marketing is so deeply ingrained and involved in content. And it's not only building white papers and other assets in that regard, but it's also creating the slide decks. They have the messaging, the positioning, which all ties into that go-to-market strategy that they are working on from the segmentation standpoint, from the product standpoint. They're directly talking to the product teams. Now, as an ABM lead and an ABM practitioner, you should be having these conversations as well, but it is such a miss not to go speak with the product marketing team, align with what they're already doing, align with their existing work streams. One thing that we're also seeing, and this goes directly to the product marketing leaders and the product marketing teams, and if you're a CMO, this is something you should absolutely be thinking about, is does your product marketing team actually have all of these things? We've seen more instances than I'd like to admit where product marketing actually isn't doing any of that. And it's leaving the ABM leaders, even demand gen leaders, up to have to do this and replicate the work that product marketing should be doing if you have a product marketing team. And I encourage you all to go back and listen to our episode number 12 of the Forge X-Files. We have on Dan Potter, who leads product marketing, and we really get in the details around this. So the next trend in prediction for 2025 is the target account list. The fact that there are still instances where you have your marketing team who is going out and creating a target account list based off of firmographic data. Maybe they went out and they bought some type of ABM platform and they're infusing some third-party intent, and they're creating this account list that lives in this silo over here. And then you have your sales team who has done deep analysis. They've set, what their priority and target accounts are going to be for the year, and that lives in a siloed list. And then there's just this weird way in which these teams are coming together to unify them, if even at all. Or marketing is just loosely looking at, okay, these are the segments that sales is initially going after. Let's build our target account list based off of that with our other data inputs. Both sales and marketing need to be coming to the table and having this conversation as one unified go-to-market team. Without it, it's such a miss. It's a miss in terms of you're going to have resource waste. You are going to have a lack of alignment when it comes to clean messaging, consistent messaging, and your customers are going to face the impacts of this, and you're not going to be as efficient as a GTM team as you could be if you had a unified target account list and knew explicitly which accounts you're going to place your resources in, how much resources are going to be allocated in terms of account tiering. And when we think about overall go-to-market structures, when we think about the sales and marketing teams, how they're built and aligned. Let's take sales, for example. Sales has been account-based for years. When you look at the way that they're classifying and categorizing accounts, usually you'll have something along the lines of strategic, enterprise, mid-market, and then some sort of PLG or self-serve motion. They have all of these accounts ranked. It's basically your account tiering. And when it comes to the ABM side or even the marketing side, then they have their tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 accounts. If you're running a one-to-many operating model where you're covering hundreds or thousands of accounts, you're probably using that tiered approach. And then if you have a high enough ACV, average contract value, and you have the resources and it makes sense to deploy this for your org, you'll run an actual one-to-one or one-to-few deployment, which is being one-to-one, a dedicated campaign specifically for one individual account. And what's unique and interesting about this is take that sales structure, right? Strategic, enterprise, mid-market, self-serve. Take that. When you line it back up with the way in which ABM teams or marketing teams are structuring their programs, look at the strategic, for example. This is where your one-to-one accounts are most likely coming from. Same with one-to-few, as in highest GTM priority, sales listed them as the highest GTM priority. Marketing is also doing the same. In some of these really large multi-billion-dollar organizations, or even just if it makes sense for your go-to-market strategy in general, you'll have a dedicated AE who's covering one, maybe even 3 accounts at all. And sometimes you'll have scenarios where there is a full dedicated team with multiple AEs just covering one account. Now, if you're making that investment from the sales side, it only makes sense to make that investment from the marketing side as well. And that's where you get that very clean one-to-one or the pure one-to-one, what we call at ForgeX Enterprise ABM one-to-one. And that's where dedicated ABM practitioner covering 3 to 8 accounts maximum at a time if they're only running and deploying one-to-one. But thinking about this target account list, thinking about how we map back both of the ways in which sales and marketing are constructing these target account lists, and not forgetting about customer success as well. So building a unified target account list, partnering as all revenue teams to do this, This leads to effective resource deployment. It leads to strategic clarity because your sales team, your marketing teams, your customer success teams all know exactly which accounts we're going to prioritize. You know where your go-to-market strategy is as well. This ties back into even that product marketing piece where you know the segments, you know the products that are prioritized. You know explicitly how you're going to partner as a single cohesive team to accomplish those overarching business objectives, of which the target account list is built to do in general. So target account list, this as a ABM leader should be what is keeping you up at night. You can have the best operating model in the game, but if you are pursuing the wrong accounts and if you're not unified as a go-to-market team around the accounts that you're prioritizing, it's not going to be as effective. And so that is very critical and something in terms of a prediction, we're going to start really seeing the emphasis on the target account list. Third prediction, serious decisions demand waterfall, which is the classic, unqualified to MQL to SAL to SQL, opportunity and then closed one, that progression where it essentially says that one individual person represents a buying opportunity, and if you could just collect those leads and push that individual lead through this staged out process, then you're ultimately going to crush it in revenue. It's going to be very predictive. You can use a sourced attribution where maybe it's first touch, last touch for that one individual lead, and then you're going to have this beautifully architected way in which your reporting is going to show clearly what's working, what's not working. As we all know, especially on the ABM side, that's not the case. And it's deeply, deeply flawed. Not only flawed in the sense of it gives inaccurate reporting, it gives you inaccurate insights to action as a marketing team and a sales team, customer success team as well. And it leads to silos. It pins marketing up against sales, fighting for sourced attribution, pins marketing up against the sales, as in marketing is so focused on gamifying the system to pump out as many MQLs as you possibly can, throw it over to sales, and then say, hey, sales, why aren't you closing these quote unquote amazing leads of which, every individual MQL, every lead totally represents a purchasing and a buying opportunity in and of themselves. It's deeply flawed. We understand it. There is a better way. This is why we are pioneering, and you're going to hear us talk about this a lot this year, our account-based arrow, which is the modernized unified data model to transition off of serious decisions, demand waterfall, and onto an account-based approach. There has not been a unified data model that is standardized in market to get off of MQLs, and we're finally delivering and filling this gap with the account-based arrow. We understand about serious decisions demand waterfall, giving a little bit of a teaser behind the account-based arrow. This is going to provide the pathway for organizations to have standardized definitions, and essentially it's going to provide ABM leaders to be able to say, hey, here's the infrastructure, here's the data model, MOps team, RevOps team, GTM ops team, take this and you can build our reporting infrastructure in the way in which we're going to get the metrics that we want to measure, which are account-based metrics. We're going to take those and with the account-based arrow, be able to actually produce them. What we have now in the market is you have some ABM platforms who are using different constructed versions that they've kind of come up with for their specific technology, and agencies have done the same. Even agencies and consultancies, they've spun up their own versions. Maybe they've even made some type of homegrown solution that they can sell to their clients. It's not unified. There are other versions in the market today that are kind of getting there. But even when you look at the updated version of the demand waterfall, it's still deeply flawed. And so the transition in the next wave really needs to focus around buying groups and how we unify all go-to-market teams Instead of having this staged out process where we're throwing MQLs over the fence and saying, hey, sales, go close them, but throughout the entirety of the buying journey, how do we unify marketing and sales and customer success to partner around identifying the members of the buying group and working as a cohesive unit to prioritize and engage those buying group members, as well as being able to look at who's engaged, who's unengaged, who's deeply engaged, and not looking at vanity metrics as well. So for example, if you're purely looking at email opens as where you know that an opened email could be from a bot, security bot, and that is a deep engagement and makes a contact go all the way up to the top of your engagement level, you're going to lose credibility with your sales team. So it's how do you build a really strong account-based and contact-based signal model to be able to do this effectively. So series decisions, demand waterfall, we're going to finally retire that. And with the account-based arrow, have a clear new unified data model that paves the path forwards off of the MQL. Fourth, a standardized definition of ABM and its corresponding deployment models is achieved. We have some new research that'll be coming out. And essentially, when you look at 2 of the top 5 challenges that ABM leaders and go-to-market leaders are facing, one, they don't have a clear internal definition of ABM. It's very hard. It's muddy across marketing, sales, customer success. And then also, when it comes to the different deployment models, there is no clarification or unification around what each means. Now, I'll give you an example that we've seen time in and time out. When these organizations are trying and working towards adopting a holistic account-based go-to-market strategy, so their demand gen team, integrated marketing, whatever it's called internally, is working to adopt a version of what we call growth ABM, which is the operating framework. It's kind of like a one-to-many, where it gives the ability to cover hundreds or thousands of accounts at one time. Now, where we're seeing a lot of issues is another version, and we'll get into these too, but when we think about one-to-one and one-to-few ABM, the definitions for those. When we speak about one-to-one or enterprise ABM, we think about, all right, one dedicated campaign is going to be created for one account. And where we're seeing some challenges and where ABM leaders are running into challenges is this demand gen team integrated marketing campaigns. They're speaking about one-to-one in terms of, oh yeah, we're covering 50 or we're covering 100 of these accounts using one-to-one ABM. And they're speaking that to their sales leaders. They're telling it to their sales teams. They're enabling their cross-functional leaders, cross-functional partners around this definition of one-to-one. And then you have the other ABM teams who are actually practicing one-to-one ABM, where they're covering 3 to 8 accounts at a time. Very deep research goes into them, curated campaign plan, which is unbelievably personalized. They're creating specific bespoke assets. They're doing in-account demo days. It is fully crafted for one account. They're telling their strategic sellers that's one-to-one ABM. And then you have this weird thing going on where it's, oh, this is one-to-one ABM. Sellers are saying, oh, we're getting one-to-one. And then these other sellers are saying, oh, this is our one-to-one. And you have these conflating definitions. And it is really confusing, as you can imagine. Sales leaders are like, what the hell is going on, marketing team? What's one-to-one? What's one-to-few? And then you have this whole notion of programmatic or one-to-many, as in what these leaders are speaking internally, and it's just running ads to a couple thousands of accounts. Maybe it's taking some assets from your one-to-one or your one-to-few and then throwing it in an ad campaign. It's such a challenge, and these companies internally, when they're working to adopt an account-based approach across the entirety of their go-to-market, you have to have a very crystal clear definition of what ABM is and its corresponding deployment models. This is why we modernized the ABM deployment models based off of what we were seeing in our benchmark audits, our research. And so we've constructed a modernized version where you have enterprise ABM, which is one-to-one and one-to-few. One-to-one meaning a dedicated account, a dedicated campaign just for one account. If you're only running one-to-one, you're covering 3 to 8 accounts at a time. One-to-few being 25 accounts or less in that cluster-based approach. If you're only running one-to-few, you'll probably have four clusters. And then growth ABM being a operating model to be able to cover hundreds or thousands of accounts using the tiered approach. So tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, based off of what tier you fall under, that is how much resources, time, effort are being deployed within those accounts. And we also have deal acceleration, which is if there's one specific opportunity, whether it's that opportunity is created or you need some extra support on one individual opportunity that hasn't been created yet, but the justification is there to give it extra love, that is deal acceleration. Now, how deal acceleration differs from one-to-one is that in a one-to-one deployment, you are working to cover one account, but multiple opportunities within that account. As in where deal acceleration differs, yes, you're going after one account, but it is just one single opportunity. So the clear definition around deployment models, around a definition for ABM in general, that is something that this year we're really going to clarify and clear up, because you can't adopt a holistic account-based go-to-market strategy efficiently and effectively if you don't have either of those covered. And our research is clearly showing that's a massive gap. Fifth, we have AI. Now, one of my predictions on this is that we're going to start to see a lot of AI workflows. This is going to be the first thing. And then after that, agents. So AI workflows meaning having a process clearly mapped out for the AI to be able to do, almost like a waterfall. Like here's step 1, here's step 2, here's step 3. Go out and do this in this sequential order for me. So that is what we're going to see first really start to pop up. You're already seeing it within a lot of the MarTech companies, or at least they're thinking about it. They have it on their roadmap. And the next wave in the latter half of this year, we're going to start to actually see some agents that work. And we're going to start to see companies adopt that. And agents, meaning they have agency. So you can give this AI agent a task, and it will go out, it'll reason, it'll think, how am I going to accomplish this task? And it will come up with the steps and complete those steps to accomplish that task. So we'll see that first in terms of the workflow. We'll see the agent second. Now, number 6 prediction is leveraging a holistic account-based go-to-market strategy is going to become the norm. You cannot have these traditional siloed legacy go-to-market strategies as where lead generation is the first one that comes to mind. This goes back to serious decisions demand waterfall. And that underlying data model created this whole swell of poorly crafted go-to-market strategies that used to work. They were inefficient and ineffective, but they were widely adopted. So we're going to start to see account-based go-to-market. That definition, the way in which companies are using this, we're going to see mass adoption of it, especially with the account-based arrow providing that pathway. And number 7 is marketers. Their overall business acumen is going to be forced to reach an all-time high. You're not going to be able to get away with purely knowing the tactical reporting and, oh, this is how many leads we brought in. Here are our sources. Here's how many downloads on this new guide. This is what we had in terms of impressions for this social post. Those are great to track, but the overarching business objectives and business measurement is going to be something that marketers, specifically marketers, are going to really have to put a focus and an emphasis on understanding what's being spoken about in the boardroom. What are the C-suite speaking about. How do I connect back all of these tactical level performance metrics up to ARR, GRR, NRR? How do I get it into, how do I start thinking about, my customer acquisition cost, thinking about, our growth rate as a company overall, thinking about how what I'm doing impacts that, and understanding what it is in terms of your business model that drives those metrics. So, are you measuring ARR? Do you have a subscription-based software? How does that adapt to a usage-based model? Are you still looking at, the same metrics overall? Are you, from your go-to-market strategy, is retention and expansion something that you should be deeply focused on? So you're going to really start to see the rise of understanding the business overall on the financial side. Now, we only have a few minutes left. So the last thing that I want to talk about, and this has been bugging me for a couple months now, is I've been seeing so many people talk about, in 2025, we're going to start doing go-to-market. We hadn't been doing go-to-market before, and now we're going to start doing go-to-market. Should we stop doing ABM and start doing GTM? GTM is the next wave. And what I say to that is be very careful who and where you say that, because you've always been doing go-to-market. Like, legitimately, go-to-market is not something that you just start doing. If you're selling a product, the way in which you sell that product is your go-to-market. You can improve your go-to-market strategy. You can improve the way in which teams unify together and your pricing, your packaging, your segments, your product. You can improve the way in which you go to market, but you're not going to transition from ABM to GTM. ABM, it essentially is a go-to-market strategy in and of itself. The way in which your company is operating and the way in which your revenue teams are selling is by a account-based go-to-market strategy. You're not now just doing ABM. GTM is not the new ABM. ABM is go-to-market. So that I've just been seeing that pop up more and more, and we need to cut that because it's just you're not doing GTM. You were always doing GTM, but it's how do I do GTM better? And an account-based approach or an account-based go-to-market strategy is the better way. It is the new way. It is where we're going to really start seeing organizations make that mass adoption. We already did in 2024, but it's only going to get larger in 2025 and throughout the next few years as we continue to go. And so you're not starting to do GTM. You're not getting off of ABM to do GTM. You were always doing GTM, but how do we do it better? And that is where we're going to close out this episode of the Forge X Files. Thanks so much for joining, everyone. And if you haven't already, check out our private community for account-based go-to-market leaders. We have over 600 people who are independently vetted. Everyone is reviewed. Make sure you go check us out. Apply to join. Psyched to see you in there, and I'll catch you next week.